Alright, hello everybody! Welcome back to another episode of Earth's Mightiest Conferences, the show where every episode we talk about some new comics that have been from the past couple weeks or so, and we let you know what we thought about them, whether or not we enjoyed them. This week, it is a much lighter week than last week. There's a lot fewer comics than there were, but as always, a lot of Blood Hunt stuff. New issues of like Birds of Prey, Batman, there's an Infinity Watch thing, Deadpool, but we are going to start with the big kickoff to DC's major event of this year. Last year had Night Terrors. This year has Absolute Power #1, written by Mark Waid, and the artist is Dan Mora. So, Absolute Power's here. This is the culmination of basically all of Dawn of DC, I would say, to this point. This has kind of been building really for like a long time. Since, as I understand, at the end of Dark Crisis, I didn't read Dark Crisis, but I understand that's kind of where a lot of the stuff started kicking off. But really, since Beast World, the build up to this event has been kind of nonstop, with Waller kind of in the background making her move, or just putting her pieces into place, getting ready to make her move. So this issue, Waller does indeed make her move. It starts off with a quick little sequence where Superman is trying to take down some people who are like robbing a building or something, and he gets shot, and he doesn't have his powers, and he falls to presumably his death. But then we flash back to
28 hours ago, I think
something. Yeah, a couple of characters who I don't remember.
Animal Man and Animal Girl.
Yeah, right. They're back from a camping trip, and all of a sudden they start getting attacked by a bunch of people who are like, "Oh, the superheroes are terrorists now. They're attacking everybody." Because it turns out Amanda Waller has created a bunch of fake videos of a bunch of the superheroes going around and just causing chaos and like killing people and like, blowing up hospitals and stuff like that. So suddenly people are starting to turn against superheroes, right? There's some talk about like they're using AI and stuff to like, make everybody think that the superheroes are just killing everybody. So then essentially all the superheroes are like, "Yo, we gotta counter this. We gotta go and start saving people just all over the place to make sure that people know that we are still helping them." And then Waller, well, first of all, the president's like, "Yo, Waller, not on your side anymore. Cut this shit out." But Waller's like, "Yeah, that speech didn't go anywhere. We shut that down real quick." And so she goes and actually goes on TV and is like, "Hey, this is batshit crazy, yo. All the superheroes are trying to kill everybody, but don't worry. I, Amanda Waller, and our department that we are running, we are here to save you all from all the superheroes just killing everybody." And then so, everybody's still trying to save everybody. It's like worldwide this is happening, right? And then it turns out we see a sequence of a bunch of heroes getting their powers stolen.
Yes.
And it turns out that Amanda Waller has made a bunch of Amazer robots, and they are Task Force 7. So it is a bunch of Amazer robots with the powers of the Justice League. They're stealing all the Justice League's powers. And Waller straight up is like, "Hey, I know all you guys are probably thinking like, hey, we've taken down Amazer robots before. We do it again. We get our powers back." No, apparently not. Apparently there's no way for them to get their powers back.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing with that, right?
Okay.
I think I get why it's there. It's to establish stakes, is to be like, "Yo, this is a really big fucking deal." But the thing is, I think that actually kind of does the opposite, because we as the audience know that can't be correct. Like, obviously they're going to get their powers back at some point. I don't know. I'm actually not positive that it will be immediately after Absolute Power. It is possible that they stay powerless for a little bit, and this kind of sets up the next phase of the DC universe, where like some new characters kind of take the center stage. And obviously there's some characters who this won't affect, like Batman. The kind of more tech-based people. But
no, because even the robots were shutting down like tech and even magic. Remember?
Right, but with Bruce, he can always make new tech. Is my point there? Like, it will not affect him in the long run.
Bruce, but like some tech people that relies purely on their tech, that's
sure. So yeah, basically they're like, "Oh shit, this is a problem." They managed to save Superman when he falls off that building.
Yes, Superboy and
John. His son,
John.
yeah.
His son,
They managed to save him. But they also get taken out. Their powers get taken at some point as well. Except then John wakes up. This is how it ends. John wakes up in like a dungeon, and he's like stuck full of spikes and everything. He's like, "What the fuck is this all about?"
And he's being brainiacked.
Is he being like officially Brainiac? Is that what that is?
It kind of looked like it. Like those are like some circle things, and his eyes kind of looked like purpley.
Okay. Yeah, so that's kind of where this issue is as the kickoff for this event. So I think, largely speaking, this is a very solid start to this event. It's probably my pick of the week, actually. I think, and the other thing, I alluded to this last week when we were talking about Blood Hunt, where I was saying that Blood Hunt. I actually think Blood Hunt and Night Terror share a lot of the same kind of DNA in that, first of all, they're kind of both horror-ish a little bit. You know, there's similar amount of issues at the big summer events for the respective companies of those years, but they kind of just popped up out of nowhere. Right? I didn't feel like they were kind of really organically built up to either Night Terrors or Blood Hunt. They both kind of just like right before each of those events, you know, like in like one issue of a series that was going to be tying into it somehow, they kind of were like, oh shit, what's going on here? But that's kind of the only build up those events had. This is very much the polar opposite of that, where this has been building up for years at this point. And so I think it feels very organic and very natural into how it just slots into the DC universe. This doesn't almost even feel like an event. It just kind of feels like the culmination of the story of the DC universe right now. And I think that really works to its advantage. I think also because it's been building up for so long, I think it kind of adds more weight and gravitas to Waller's plan, as we know it's been building for so long, and it makes it more believable that she could really be a huge threat to the universe and all these characters right now, because we've been seeing it build up so naturally over the course of this whole period. So I think that really works. Again, I think my major gripe is stuff like how the whole, like, they're never going to get their powers back again. Like, again, I could see it being a case where they don't get their powers back for a little while. And I don't mind that idea in theory. Yeah. I do not for a second think that DC would really go for it. I could see a world where they would, but I think it's very unlikely, just because it's, you know, I don't think they want to stray that far from the status quo. But regardless, even if they do have their powers stay gone for a little bit, they're not staying gone forever. Obviously, these characters are too big. You know, they're huge titans of pop culture. There's no way they stay gone forever. And so, as a result, I think that kind of takes some of the stakes out of it a little bit and kind of breaks immersion a little bit, because me as a reader knows that that can't be the case. And so that it has to be reversed eventually, or at least for some major characters. So I think that does kind of hurt the issue a little bit and break the immersion a little bit. Other than that, though, very strong start to the event, I think. The art looks great. Dan Mora is a fantastic artist, as everybody knows. What actually I think really stands out here, a lot of times Dan Mora, the person coloring Dan Mora's art is Tamara Bonvillain, which is also great, like great coloring for that. But the colorist here is a different colorist, Alejandro Sanchez. I think it adds kind of a more darker flair to it than Bonvilla's coloring. I think it kind of makes it more, not gritty per se, but it feels like a darker tone that is being applied to his art, which I think works really well for this kind of event, as opposed to something like Batman Superman World's Finest, which is a much more kind of lighthearted, kind of, I don't know if goofy's the right word, but it has this kind of like silly, fun, campy moments, whereas this is kind of much more kind of, you know, a serious kind of thing taking over the universe. So largely, I think a very strong start. Couple of gripes here and there, but I think this is a really good start for this event. I think this event is going to be a really solid one overall.
Yeah, I 100% agree. So to add to your thing, to your what happens, Green Arrow also showed up, right? Because at some point, it was Batman and Robin were basically, when all the Amazos attacks, Failsafe attacked them too. And so as Batman was running away, he went onto like the emergency comm thing that like all the superheroes have. And like, Batman basically said like, Amanda doesn't have this line. And that's when Green Arrow showed up saying like, she does actually, like, I'm on her side and I gave her this line or whatever. And so he's actually the one that talked about the Amazo robots taking their powers and stuff like that over that line or whatever.
Okay,
but
right, yeah.
To your point about the whole powers thing and not being like permanent, I understand that to a point. Like, yes, like she can like I feel like she can take some people's powers away, but for some others, like I feel like it's impossible. Like, let's say Superman, right?
Right.
His powers come directly from like the sun, technically.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally part of his DNA. So like, I
Yeah.
don't understand how she takes that. Like, I understand like maybe she like powers him down to a certain extent for like a little, like, yeah, it just like powers him down to the point where it seems like he doesn't have his powers or something like that.
Right.
But like, unless she literally rewrites his DNA, like, I don't see how she can take his powers. But for like other people, I don't know, like Martian Manhunter, for example, too. He's an alien that, like, I don't.
Right.
Technically, I don't like. Who knows if that's even like a power he has? Maybe that's just
Right.
who they are. So like, to
Yeah.
that extent, like, I don't really understand how that whole thing works with like them just being like, yeah, you just don't have powers anymore, because that's super like that's like such a neutral term at that point.
Yeah.
It's like, what exactly counts as a person having powers? Because like Aquaman, he's Atlantean. I think that's
Right.
just that he can breathe underwater. Like the
Yeah.
talking to fish thing, I think is that's him only. I think, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think every Atlantean can do that. But again, like,
no, I think most Atlanteans can do that.
okay.
Yeah.
But it's like at that point, it's like, do you take away his ability to breathe underwater? That's like
Yeah.
literally just him being an Atlantean. So like, I don't. Again, like, I'm just saying, like, I don't. It's such a like neutral term that it's like, what exactly covers that? But
Yeah.
anyway, I also again, we don't know how really it's happening. Like, the Amazos have basically absorbed their powers. By absorbing it, they take it away, which I think that's a new thing. I don't think Amazo's ever done that. No, yeah. Besides that, though, I actually really enjoyed this one too. I thought this one was great. The way it all just kind of like unfolded, and how you could see it like on a global scale too, not just like really just like the big three or whatever. Like, you know, like just like a small group. You saw it like worldwide about,
or not just New York.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You saw it like you saw it happen to like big heroes just as much as small heroes as well, that like aren't as well known or whatever. So yeah, it's just, it's so far honestly starting off really strong. Really enjoyed the first issue, and so yeah, I gave it an 8.
I think I might give it a 9.
9. All right.
Yeah, I liked it quite a bit. Also, this is maybe my favorite cover of the week. It's between this and one other. Yeah, I think outside of that little, gripe I have with the powers, I do think it's a very solid first start. And obviously this is all like speculative in the sense that it could all end up making perfect sense. It could, work out so that these kind of, concerns don't hold any weight ultimately. I mean, I don't think that'll really be the case because, again, eventually, like, they're not going to have Superman lose his powers forever. It's just not going to happen. But yeah, I think it does a very good job of kicking off the event. And again, I think that is helped massively by the fact that it has been built up so naturally over the previous couple of years. So yeah, 9 for me, I think.
Moving on to the next absolute power thingy.
All right. Well, that would be Batman number 150, kind of. It is kind of an absolute power tie-in. It has a backup story that is the absolute power tie-in.
Yeah.
The rest of it is totally disconnected. So it's written by Chip Zdarsky, as per usual. We have a couple artists credited on the main story. It's Dennis Cohen, who's the main artist on here, and then Jorge Jimenez has a couple pages here and there, mostly for like flashback stuff. And then the backup story, also Chip Zdarsky on the writing, and the artist is Mike Hawthorne. So as for the main story, it is, so this is as I said, this is issue number 150, which is kind of a big milestone. I wasn't sure exactly how, like, which way they would take this because of that, because I think the inclination for big anniversary issues like this can be to go really, really big with it.
Yeah.
And do this kind of big, culmination of a big story arc or something, or do this just explosive kind of, one shot, whatever. This goes in very much the opposite direction of that. But I think it actually is more effective because of that, because it is kind of actually much in the same way that last issue was an exploration of Batman as a person. This one is as well. However, last issue was kind of examining Batman as a person through Bruce's own eyes, albeit a clone version of him, but it is kind of through the lens of Bruce himself. This one is kind of an exploration of Batman as a person through the lens of just like an outside person. And so it's about in Gotham War, there was a person who found out who Batman really is, found out that he's Bruce Wayne, And so this issue deals with him trying to sell that information to a bunch of people, a bunch of basically Batman's rogues. So like he goes to Two-Face, and Two-Face is like, I already fucking know who he is. Also, I do not want people to know who Batman is, because then he's just gonna become the Bat and not the Man, and he'll just go fucking berserk. And then he's like, I'm gonna fucking kill you. But then I guess the Harvey side of him is like, no, leave.
Yeah. So
then he goes to the new rulers of the Iceberg Lounge. They're the Kingpin's kids. So they're like, oh man, Kingpins. Hey, thanks for, sorry, not Kingpin, Penguin. The Penguin's kids. They're like, hey, thanks for like giving us this information. We'll give you $1 million for it. And then some other dude comes up and is like, hey, they're gonna fucking kill you. Come on, let's get out of here. And so he takes him to their kind of gang, and they're like, well, hey, you know who Batman is, so like if you're with us, Batman will just kind of keep his distance. But then they try and rob a bank, and they just get beat the fuck up by Batman anyway. So
yeah,
that plan didn't really work on their part. And then this character, whose name is Theodore, he wakes up in his son's dorm room. He's kind of like a deadbeat dad, who was, going and becoming henchmen for people, trying to just like make easy money instead of like getting a job. And so he became estranged from his wife, and his son ended up hating him as well. And we find out that it was because his son wanted to like be like his dad. He thought his dad was really cool, always like going on these, big jobs with henchmen jobs with all the, the villains of Gotham. And then so his son went on a job with Scarecrow, I believe it was.
Yes, it was.
And just got absolutely fucked up. Like got hit with the fear gas as like part of collateral damage between the fight with Batman. And then Batman came and helped him and was like, hey, because, well, I don't know if this kid wanted to go to college, but Batman's essentially like, hey, you don't have to end up, going and helping these, villains out. You can go to college. He sets up like a scholarship for Teddy's son, whose name is, it's like, fuck, I don't remember what his name is.
Did they even mention it?
They did. It's I want to say it's like Yuko. I don't think that's right, but it's something similar to that. But he sets up a scholarship for him, and it's just like essentially just like be better. That's what I asked. And so that then kind of, inspires Teddy as well. And he actually ended up going to talk to Bruce, and Bruce essentially sets him up with a new life outside of Gotham in Metropolis, since all the villains are just going to be gunning for him since he knows who Batman is. And that's kind of where that story ends. Then there's the backup, which is the Absolute Power tie-in, where it's essentially Batman goes to try and help Cyborg out. Cyborg is like, hey, Amanda Waller has a fucking mother box. That's how she's stealing all our powers. And then one of the Amazos pops in. I think it's the Wonder Woman one, but I'm not positive on that.
Yeah, I don't know.
And so they have a big fight. Cyborg gets taken, and then essentially, I really like this. There's a point where Flash has been able to keep his powers because he's just running so fast that he's been able to stay ahead of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's kind of acting as the communication network between all the superheroes right now, since Waller has tapped into their actual network. And so you just see him like running back and forth, kind of like how he did in that one issue of The Flash, running back and forth, just kind of being the person delivering information between all the superheroes. And Bruce is essentially like, hey, I'm going to go fucking get the mother box. So that's where this issue ends. I think that the Absolute Power tie-in, it's decent enough. It's, it's just kind of a very short kind of story setting up the next arc of this series, where Batman and Catwoman, because he's also like, I'm gonna need help, I'm gonna get Catwoman to help me steal it, because she's like a master thief. They're gonna be going after the mother box. I think that's all fine. It was good enough. I don't like the art in it that much, because I'm not a big fan of Mike Hawthorne as an artist, but I think the story itself was fine. The main story, though, I really liked. I think I really liked how it did take a kind of more contemplative, quieter approach to this anniversary issue. But again, examining who Batman is as a person. I think this is one of the strongest standalone installments in Chip Zdarsky's run, because I think Zdarsky's really great at writing these kind of quiet moments. He can do some really like cool, big bombastic action as well. But I think there's a really great balance between that and the quieter stuff in his Daredevil run. And I think this, is a very solid example of his kind of ability to examine characters in this way. I think it worked really well. I think it's a really good companion piece to last issue. And I just really liked how it kind of, again, showed the ways that Bruce helps people outside of just punching supervillains. I really liked that angle. I thought that was really cool. It's a weird situation I find myself in with this run because I find myself flipping back and forth on it a lot recently. Not even just because of the failsafe stuff, but or not even because of the way I feel about the quality of the whole failsafe story, but because to me, it did feel like Chip Zdarsky's kind of entire idea with this run was the failsafe and Xur stuff, and now it's wrapped up. So part of me is thinking like maybe Chip should just move on. We can get some new blood on the Batman book and get a new run. Because it does feel like Chip's kind of main story for this run is over. And so it's like, where do you go? And as much as I would like to see him do some kind of new, cool, creative ideas, it feels to me, and I could be totally off base here, but it feels to me like he has done what he wanted to do with this run from the kind of in terms of him kind of completing that main story that he's been building this entire time. So that's one hand how I feel. But then also, you get an issue like this, which I feel like is just a really good one-off, character piece on Batman. And it makes me want to see more of what he can do with the character. I think he does have more, like, he's obviously got a lot of creative juice left. I think he could do more with this character. Again, I don't know how much of his failsafe Xur stuff was editorial based versus how much was what he was really wanting to do in terms of the structure of that whole thing. But either way, I think, like, as much as I, went back and forth on the story, I did like a lot of it. I also didn't love a lot of it. I do want to see him kind of be able to do more kind of unique and separate stuff from that in his run. So I don't really know whether or not I want to keep writing this book right now. He's going to through Absolute Power. I mean, he's doing the next arc which is the main Absolute Power tie-in stuff. Although Teenie Howard is also writing a story, and that's not encouraging. I'm not a fan of her as a writer at all. But yeah. So I don't know. As for this issue though, I liked it a lot generally. I think it was a very solid issue, and it's got me kind of. The past couple issues have gotten me kind of more invigorated with this run again.
No, I mean, all right. So, I mean, at first, I wasn't quite sure about the main story, right? Like, it was, I didn't understand it. I was expecting this. At least I was expecting the main story to be part of just Absolute Power. I don't know really why, because usually when it's a tie-in like this, it's usually like a side story or something like that. But like at first I didn't really like the main story. I was like, okay, this guy is just gonna be going around doing this whole thing, and like he's gonna be just like, I feel like it's just gonna end up with him being like afraid of the Batman, of like ever really leaving an apartment building or something, with the way Batman was like stalking him the entire issue, really. And it was only towards the end, like really when he like woke up in his son's dorm and shit, that I was like, okay, I kind of understand what he's doing. And then yeah. And that was what really made me like the whole story, was just the ending, how it ended and how it all like unfurled, really. You just kind of go around seeing like this guy that has basically just done the exact same thing for his entire life, and it never really worked out, only for his like son really to just basically like open his eyes to being like, yeah, you just gotta stop doing that. It's not working, and it never will work. Even I tried it and it didn't work and shit like that. So yeah, I ultimately, like you said, like, like just how Batman is through another person's eyes. I mean, I obviously, this is not always the Batman that a lot of villains get, realistically, I think. But it's nice to see that like he does, like, it's nice to see that like the original Batman is still in there, because like the original Batman for me was, yes, he would have to like, stop people, but at the same time, it was always about trying to like heal them as well. Like the whole point was to like heal them so they would stop doing these things. And so yeah, so it was kind of nice to see that come back here in this one. And then as for the side story, I mean, like, it was all right. You saw a bit of the aftermath of the first Absolute Power. You see that Superman is actually alive and well.
Well, I don't know how well he is. He's in a hospital bed.
I don't know. He looked like awake and stuff, and he was talking, so.
Yeah, but his speech bubble also had the squiggly, like, I'm weak dialogue kind of squiggles around him, yeah.
Yeah. But Wonder Woman was also there.
I can't remember if she lost her powers in Absolute Power #1.
I mean, it seemed like it, because, like,
yeah,
the way that from what I remember in Absolute Power #1, the way that one, last time we saw Wonder Woman, was she was being held by the throat by one of the fucking Amazo robots.
Oh right, yeah.
So
that did happen.
yeah, she was somewhere. I really don't know. I don't even remember who she was with. She was with somebody else. And then yeah, Batman sneaking into Titan's Tower to, I guess like I think it was to like get Cyborg out of there, if I remember correctly. Was like his original plan.
Yeah.
But then yeah. So yeah, I don't know, man. It's unfurling. Yeah, he's got to go steal a mother box that he knows where it is. I forgot. Cyborg said where. I don't remember.
It's Gamora, isn't it?
Gamora, yeah, that's the word.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I don't know, man. It was yeah, it was alright. It moved the story along at least. It wasn't just like some random ass shiznit that had nothing to do with anything. So, my kind of tie-in really. But yeah, no, I mean overall, I think this one was pretty good. Was pretty good. I'm gonna give it an 8.
I'm giving it an 8 as well. Actually, this had a shot at being my pick of the week. I think I just kind of missed out to Absolute Power, but I did like this one quite a bit. All right. Next up, let's go to let's do The Last Mermaid here.
The Last Mermaid.
Yeah.
All right.
This is written and drawn and everything by Derek Kirk Kim. This is issue number 5 of The Last Mermaid. And there's not much to say about this one, as per usual. This is a very decompressed story. However, I was talking a lot last episode about the decompression in Green Arrow and how I was kind of not loving it. I think it works a lot better in something like this, though. Essentially, this issue, all that really happens is Torque and the mermaid are going to try and find the thing that the mermaid's looking for. It's like the big statue, big trident in the sky or something.
Yeah.
And so they're like, all right, well, we could go around this mountain range or we could just try and climb over it. And so they try to climb over it. They can find the big mermaid trident to the sky faster that way. And so they have a tumble. They run into some mutants. They have a big fight with the mutants.
Yep.
And that's kind of it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
And I think, again, it's solid. Here, it's interesting with this series because right after I finished it, I was not disappointed, but I wasn't completely satisfied with it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, looking back on it, to the point where I was even I don't know if I planned to finish out the arc for sure, but I wasn't sure if I was going to kind of keep picking it up past that. But just the more I've kind of thought about it, I don't know, very kind of chill feeling book a lot of the time, which is weird. It's this very dour, post-apocalyptic world with a lot of big action sequences and stuff. But I think it's kind of just a chill, almost cozy vibe a lot of the time. It also helps that this issue once again did not end with Lottie about to die, which is nice. Yeah. And I think the action is genuinely very great. The way it is staged and the way it just kind of unfolds. I think there's a great. I think Derek Kirk Kim has a great sense of space and spatial awareness within the action sequences to make it really feel like it's moving and it's kinetic and it's this kind of big thing that's traversing a lot of space in a really interesting way. I think all that's great. Yeah, the art still looks good. Just a very solid series. But yeah, I just genuinely, again, outside of that, don't have much to say. Good action. Again, not much happens, but I still think a very solid series right now. Yeah.
No, yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm enjoying the series still. It's a very easy series to read. I think the one that we've had the most dialogue in, I think it was number 4.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken. My real only issue with this one specifically was for me it felt like it ended super abruptly. I felt like it was.
I do agree. Yeah.
It felt like it was missing 1 or 2 pages.
Yeah.
Because I feel like with the other ones, I felt like it stopped somewhere that's okay, that felt appropriate. Appropriate stop. This one, it just it just ended.
Yep.
I was just oh, okay, that was it. All right.
Yeah.
It's like I said, it's a quick read, so it's not even the fact that it was a quick read that you're just oh shit, that took me a minute to read or something like that. No, it literally was just super just came out of nowhere ending, honestly. I was just not expecting that right there. It really did just feel like it was missing 1 or 2 pages. But besides that, still overall still enjoying the series for the most part. I'm loving the art still. Lottie, best character in this, honestly. Didn't get a lot of them this issue.
No.
So
eats a big juicy bug.
He did eat a scorpion thing, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. He tried to nibble on some bones earlier. That was adorable. Yeah, man. I mean, that was my only one problem with it was that it felt like it ended. It just didn't end correctly for me. And for that reason, I gave it a 7.
I'm giving it an 8. I still think it's pretty good. I do agree, though. It did feel like it just kind of stopped. I was like, huh, interesting.
Yeah.
And this was the first time I'd really felt that in this series.
Yeah.
Last issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, last issue was maybe the closest outside of this that I felt it. But even then, like, you could still, I think it still kind of made sense more or less. So, yeah, I did feel it was a little bit of a weird stopping point. So next issue, it appears to be, after the next issue, I think they're going on break for a little bit. But yeah, I'm pretty sure this series has, like, a decently long plan for it. So I'm currently still planning on sticking around for it.
Okay, yeah. I mean, for me, it's a simple enough read. So, yeah, not too big a deal. All right, let's see here. Let's go on to Birds of Prey.
All right, this is Birds of Prey number 11, written by Kelly Thompson. A couple artists on this. We have 3 artists credited, Robbie Rodriguez, Javier Pina, and Gavin Guidry. So this issue, kind of simple in terms of what happens. So they've gotten through the portal again. We have now figured out that whenever they go through a portal, whoever's in the front, the portal, the world kind of reskins itself based on whoever walked through it first.
Yes.
So this time it was Sin, Dinah's sister, and so they end up in this big dinosaur world. So they fight some dinosaurs for a little bit, then they go and hide in a cave. Dinah gives a bunch of pep talks to people because first it's because Vixen is having some trouble because she's not connected to the red anymore. She can't feel it, so Dinah goes and gives a pep talk to her.
That, but like also the fact that she almost died when they first got to the world, and that
that's
was
true.
really shaking her up.
But that was also because she didn't have access to the red that she was in that situation. Yeah. And then so she doesn't touch the Sin as well, who's that's where we get kind of the big piece of information in this issue, which is they can kind of control what the world reshapes itself into, because it's not a situation where the person goes through and then it just kind of reshapes itself based on their personality. It's whatever they're thinking of, it reshapes itself to that. We find that out because Sin was saying she was worried that Megara was the kind of dominant personality within her, and that it would reshape itself to Megara's personality and just become like this ancient Greek architecture and stuff. So she just started thinking of the paleontology book she was reading, and thus it turned into a big dinosaur world. So then Vixen goes, takes a minute, is able to reconnect to the red again for some reason. It's not really explaining why she can do it now and not earlier, but regardless, then Maya shows up. We didn't talk about this last issue because we were on break when this the previous issue for this dropped, but essentially Maya is the daughter of a villain that Barbara Gordon is going to kill in the future, and as a result, that's why Maya is trying to kill Barbara. And so the Birds of Prey have now teamed up with Maya's sister, and so right at the end, Maya shows up. They have kind of a bit of a fight. Dinah tries to kind of hold her off while the rest of the birds go, because they know where the portal is now again. And then Vixen shows up and she's like, I'm connected to the red again. Let's fucking go.
Yeah, she's like a pterodactyl, I believe.
Yeah, that's where the issue ends. So I think, again, I have said this a lot by this point. I've talked about this series, decent amount of times by this point. And I keep kind of saying that when this series is good, I really, really like it. I think it's a ton of fun, but I also think it's pretty inconsistent. I think this is better than the last 2 issues. I think of this arc, this is the best one so far. And I think part of that just comes from the fact that dinosaurs are cool and fun to see superheroes fight against them. So, that was kind of fun to see. However, I am disappointed. They fight dinosaurs for like the first third of the issue, and then they're kind of just talking in a cave for most of the rest of it. But regardless, I think the art looks pretty decent in this, actually. I think I still have some of the issues with the coloring, but it was less jarring to me here than it was in some of the previous issues. I don't know if I've just kind of settled into it, but it didn't strike me as, like, muddy as some of the other ones have been.
Yeah.
And then, I think, like, the pep talks in the cave and stuff, they were all fine. It was kind of a lot of characters kind of expositing at each other for a lot of it. However, I do think it was more naturally delivered than in stuff like Power Girl last week, for instance, where I thought the exposition was just so blatant and just beating you over the head with, like, this is what's happening. And that, I kind of really hate it when exposition is like that. I think it flows better in this, so I did appreciate that. It felt more like real conversations.
Yep.
And then, I think the ending with Vixen is cool. That's all good. So I think this is a solid issue. I think it's the best issue of this arc so far. I, going into this, was prepared to kind of get ready to drop this series if I didn't like this issue. And this happened. If you've been listening to the series, to the show for a while now, you would know this is something I've been saying a lot with this series. It's like every 4 issues, I'm almost about to start thinking about dropping this series. But then I get an issue that I do quite like, and I'm like, okay, fine, I'll stick with it for now. So I am going to stick with this one. I like the concept of, jumping between these different worlds. I think it's fun to see these kind of different, pocket dimension worlds that they're going through. I wish they would kind of do more with some of the ideas with it. They didn't do a whole lot with it in this issue, but regardless, I think it's fun. I think it's a fun idea. And I think this delivers on it the best, kind of, although it doesn't do as much with the setting as some of the previous issues have done. But I think the overall package was the most cohesive of this arc so far, and so I ended up pretty more or less enjoying it.
Ooh, man. Okay, yeah, I mean, okay, yeah, man. I'm not, I think this is fine for what it is, really. I will agree with you that this is so far the best one of this arc. Like you said, just last issue was just it was just huge info dump. So, moving away from that one, this one definitely, we got info, but it felt way more natural, like you were saying. That last one was just it was a lot to really kind of follow it all and just take it that all in. All of a sudden you're just oh my gosh, okay, hold on. And so this one definitely felt a lot more natural in that sense. Art wise, I am unsure of how I feel about it, really, because I think they're trying to kind of be different, with different worlds, maybe they're gonna do different kind of art style and maybe art color, and I don't know exactly, but man, some of the things drawn in here, I was just yeah, I'm not sure if I'm liking what I'm looking at right now, honestly. But yeah, really, what else is there to say, honestly? Yeah, nothing much really. Okay, well, actually, I will say one thing. This trope that they're going to be following for this arc as well, where essentially I already can see it, each and every single one of them is going to individually get their own chance at their world and stuff like that, But it's man, realistically, I don't know if that's how that would work,
Yeah.
At that point, it's just okay, now let's go to your world. It's we're all just gonna jump in and see what happens. That dog, I just want to get out of here, No, we're not gonna go take turns now.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know, man. I just think that could be overplayed at this point. I don't know. That's just a me thing. Besides that, yeah, Barbara's in it for a page, I think.
She's making some progress in getting out of wherever she is.
Is she?
Yeah, because she manages to actually break down part of the wall.
Cage,
yeah,
I guess. Yeah, but she was stuck up high up on a mountain, so she couldn't actually go anywhere. So maybe when they change worlds again, she'll be the cage will be broken this time, but she can actually leave or something.
That's what I think will happen. Yeah.
All right. Oh yeah, I don't know, man. It's convoluted and dumb, but yeah, 7.
I'm also giving it a 7. Yeah, I don't know. I think what's also interesting though is this is the first issue of this arc that doesn't end with them going through the portal to the next area. So I am kind of wondering how that's going to be structured. I do kind of I wonder if that'll make it feel like they don't really fully explore the next world to its kind of full extent and degree, because they'll be starting still in this one. I imagine they'll go through the portal pretty quickly, but okay, I'm gonna go and talk about Scarlett now. Now, Sebastian was not able to read this one this week, but I was. It's also written by Kelly Thompson. And the artist is Marco Ferrari. This is the other issue that might be my cover of the week. So I'm kind of trying to even kind of remember what happened. I did like it. I want to say straight up, this is the other one, the third one that I was considering being my pick of the week. I did quite like it. A lot of it is based around Scarlett kind of training a little bit. There's a big action sequence right at the start where it's the clan Arashikage kind of trying to test her to see how skilled she is and to see if they should really bring her into their operation. So she impresses them enough for her to go and meet with Storm Shadow and then also the leader of clan Arashikage, and then essentially they send her on this mission to go and find this this big weapon for this clan so that they can use it to really gain some extra power. It's in this like really, intensely guarded building and everything. And so Scarlett goes there essentially so that she can, again, gain their trust. She knows it's kind of a suicide mission as well, by the way, because essentially she's saying, like, she thinks that this clan thinks that she is capable enough to go and get the weapon for them, but that it also will probably get her killed. So they kind of eliminate her, but then also, and like not lose any of their own people while also still getting what they want out of it. But she goes anyway because she wants to go and extract Jinx from the clan, who is her friend. And then, they can just kind of chill and have a party or something. So that's kind of where it ends is she's in the building trying to steal the weapon. She might have even gotten it. I don't remember that exactly. But it ends with her kind of like jumping down an elevator shaft as a bunch of people are trying to kind of crowd around her and trying to take her down. So, yeah, again, just generally, I quite liked this. I think this is good. I think it's a very solid addition alongside Duke and Cobra Commander. I think right now it's been more consistent than both of those series. I think issue number 2 of both Duke and Cobra Commander I thought was a pretty significant step down from the first one. This, I think, is around the same level of quality. I think it's better than Destro so far as well. So I'm quite liking this series. It's interesting that even though I went into the Energon universe knowing more about the Transformers side of things, and not much, but I did know more of that side of stuff than G.I. Joe. It's still been the G.I. Joe books that I've been like most engaged in so far, and that continues with this one. So I like this quite a bit. I gave it an 8. I think it was a really solid book. I'm enjoying this one.
Well, let's move right along here. We're doing Spider-Man.
All right. Well, this would be Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 1. It's Infinity Watch Part 2. I thought this was boring, man. I didn't like this one that much.
All right.
I made reference to that in the last episode because I had read this by the time we recorded the last one. It didn't click with me. It's essentially Peter goes and finds Overtime robbing a big armed truck. They have a bit of a fight, and then Overtime goes back in the past. So you can tell Peter is like feeling really bad about something. And so it turns out he goes back to the past and sees Spider-Man fighting this very low-level new villain named Fission, who's like nuclear energy powered. And so he sees Peter, like he's webbed him up, but then his coolant system Fission's is broken, essentially. It's like detached. And so because of that, Fission overloads and blows up and dies. And so Peter feels like it's his fault. And so Overtime goes back. He can't stop that from happening. He can only go back 24 hours right now, is what he's saying. He's not able to prevent Fission from blowing himself up. So he tries it like a bunch of different times, kind of goes back a little bit farther every time. Yeah. One time he jumps like way too far back. He jumps like 3 months in the past or something. And so he keeps kind of progressively getting farther back until he's able to stop Fission from blowing up, essentially. And so, Peter's feeling much better about it. And it turns out that he was able to do that and go farther back in time because future Overtime sent Star and Quantum there to boost his power. Because again, when there's more of the Infinity Stone people together, their powers are all boosted. And so that's kind of where this issue is ultimately. And I just kind of thought it was boring. I thought Overtime was really fucking annoying in this issue. I didn't think really any of the jokes from Spider-Man or Overtime were that good. There's also, I totally forgot, there's also the backup story, which is the Death Stone saga. And it's essentially pretty simple. It's just Nighthawk talking to Phil Coulson, who now is the host of the Death Stone. He's been resurrected, and he's basically saying, he's talking, again, I mentioned this last episode as well, where this is the Nighthawk from the Heroes Reborn universe, the alternate universe from Jason Aaron's Avengers run, where like Mephisto took over the world, and Coulson was the president. And so he's kind of trying to make Coulson remember this, and eventually he's like, fuck, I'm just going to beat the shit out of you. So they are about to start fighting. I like the backup story. I think it's cool. I think it's interesting. I like having Coulson back in the universe. I mean, that's cool. And Nighthawk is a dumb character. Yes. Particularly 616 Nighthawk is dumb as hell. This Nighthawk's a little bit cooler. He's always been just like a really much worse Batman clone. But I like the backup story. I think that's cool. I thought Overtime was annoying in the main story. I thought Peter was kind of annoying in the main story. I thought their conflict with Fission wasn't that interesting. I don't know. It just didn't work for me. This felt more like I was thinking this event would feel like in the just like random, disconnected, like one hero and one of the Infinity Stone bearers just pops up and they do a random, generic, bland mission. It's what I thought this event was going to be. That's kind of what this issue is. And so I didn't like this one very much. I thought it was pretty rough. Yeah, definitely this issue made me a lot more skeptical. as to where this event is going. Now, next issue is Thor, and it's written by Al Ewing, so I'll probably like that on some level. But yeah, right now I'm not feeling this issue in particular. It has definitely soured me on this event right now.
Interesting, really. I mean, I don't know. I didn't mind this one simply because I think the whole thing behind it was it was just well written for me, right? Like I think it needed to be Spider-Man that ran into overtime, right? Because of basically what they like shared technically, or like that's how they like try to really like spin it, with just the fact that the reason overtime was even robbing the truck in the first place is because he had made a mistake that he himself couldn't live with, and he basically the money was just gonna like help him until he could go back in time to basically stop himself from making that mistake. And he needed to hear it from Spider-Man himself being like, I've also made a mistake that I myself can't live with. You just gotta learn how to essentially live with that mistake and have it help you become a better person overall. And, that's like the way, okay, so that was towards the end. Yeah. How Spider-Man got overtime himself to like not help him because Spider-Man didn't ask for help in that problem, but like how overtime came to the conclusion like, I'm just gonna stop Spider-Man from killing this, like not Spider-Man killing him, but like stopping from this guy from dying in front of Spider-Man's face, and that'll help me feel better. I don't know how that conclusion came to be. That man was just like, I'm gonna go back in time and stop that guy from dying, and then Spider-Man. Like, I really don't know what his thought process was. I think
it's because he didn't know Peter's backstory of like letting Uncle Ben die, and so he's like, well, maybe I can prevent Spider-Man from feeling this if I help him, make sure that this guy doesn't die.
So yeah, like that I understand. He explained that. Yeah. But like, why though? It was like he never was just like because I just like it made no sense for him to do that in the first place. Go from robbing an armored truck to just being like, okay, I'm gonna help Spider-Man real quick. So like I feel like for me that was just like I don't know. I just don't understand his thought process really ultimately. But like I just think the dialogue between Spider-Man and Overtime towards the end mostly was just very well written, and that's what I liked it so much. I didn't find them annoying like you did. I found him going back in time interesting enough, kind of like how kind of honestly like Spider-Man said in the issue, kind of like a Groundhog Day type thing.
Yeah.
Where you just like kept reliving it, but like not being able to do anything, and then he was finally able to do something about it. So I mean, I thought it was interesting enough at a level. For me, mostly though, it was just the dialogue between Spider-Man and Overtime towards the end that made me enjoy this one so much. And then the after story is just I don't know, man. It's just there, really. I don't understand Nighthawk. Like, I don't like him as a character.
This version's better than 616 Nighthawk. 616 Nighthawk was a member of the Defenders for a long time, and he was fucking terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I'm cool. Phil Coulson's back. He doesn't understand what's going on right now. He just came back to life, not knowing what the fuck is happening. So, we'll see. I'm curious to see what like his powers are, considering the Death Zone. Like if he just touches somebody, do they die, or just can he prevent death? Like I'm curious to see that. But yeah, I don't know, man. Overall, I think this one was all right. I'm not too critical about it, honestly. But yeah, I think I'd give this a 7.
Giving it a 5.
That's so low.
That's me being generous with it too.
No shot.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Bro.
Not the worst thing I read this week, but it is the second worst thing I read this week. Okay, well, moving on to Deadpool here. This is Deadpool number 4, written by Cody Ziegler. The artist is Roger Antonio. Okay, so I did read this one. I wasn't up to date when issue 2. Well, I had read issue 1. Didn't read issue 2 to review it, and then we were on break when issue 3 dropped. So this is the first issue I've talked about since it dropped, since the series started in April. So this is my least favorite issue of the series. Just straight up, I didn't love this one that much. It starts out, there's a training montage where Taskmaster is training Ellie, Deadpool's daughter, because she has a healing factor now. We found out not too long ago, and so as a result of her healing factor as well, she's also able to build muscle faster because muscle strength is gained by when muscles get damaged and they heal stronger. So she's able to gain muscle faster because of her healing factor, and she's also able to like learn stuff faster because it like makes more connections in her brain or something. I don't know about all that, because Wade, I don't think has that much more strength, and he's also like a kind of a dumbass. So I was like, interesting. But then essentially it goes through and Wade gets a video from Death Grip saying like, hey, come in, let's have a big fight, Deadpool. So he and Taskmaster go. They have a big fight with a lot of Death Grip's kind of lackeys. And then Wade has a conversation with Death Grip. And in that conversation, Death Grip takes Wade's healing factor from him. And so pretty immediately, like, Wade, he starts, like, coughing. Like, the cancer is kind of kicking in immediately, it seems. And that's kind of where the issue ends, is Deadpool being like, well, shit, that's kind of fucking scary. My healing factor's gone. So I have a couple problems with this issue. First of all, I don't think it's that interesting. I think it's a weird kind of, it's a setup issue for the final fight next issue. And I don't think it's very interesting setup. I also don't think it's quite as fun or funny as the rest of the series has been so far. I think the jokes have generally been pretty decent throughout the series so far, but I don't think there were that many good ones this issue. I mean, there was one that I did like where Death Grip was monologuing and then Wade just fucking throws his gun at him. I thought that was funny. But outside of that, like, I didn't think the jokes landed that much. They like rapid fire off a lot of fourth wall jokes this issue, like back to back to back.
They really do.
And what I realized through that is that so far there's only been like really kind of one kind of fourth wall joke this issue, which is Wade just saying something about the amount of issues so far. Where he's like, I'll do that next issue. I'll be back next issue. The writer only had 5 issues to do this arc in, so we're about to go fight Death Grip. It's kind of mostly just been that. There's one in this issue where he references Marvel vs. Capcom 4, and I was like, okay, at least that's different. But a lot of the fourth wall jokes, I think, have just been very samey, and I thought the plot wasn't that interesting in this one. So I think this is the worst issue of the series so far. I thought it was kind of uninteresting and a little bit dull. And to the point where I am now very much on the fence as to whether or not I will pick up the next issue, because I was kind of with this series, I was at the point where I was liking it just enough to keep going with it. And so with even one issue not being all that, interesting to me, it does make me much more inclined to drop it. I'm less inclined to just like stick with this series for like 2 or 3 more issues because I've already kind of been like almost on the fence with it. Like, maybe I pick up the next issue, because the next issue is the last issue of the arc, and maybe I might just pick it up just to see like how this arc wraps up and kind of what it sets up for the next one. But really, I'm not sure on this one. So yeah, this one didn't really do it for me. I wasn't a huge fan of this one.
Well, I mean, I will say that this one so far has been my least favorite of this series. I think kind of like I don't know. I think for me, like Deadpool, kind of, he's better when he like is able to riff off of like his opponent, like kind of like in the like last issue it was against Crossbones, and like Crossbones knows Deadpool enough, where they were like kind of making like rips at each other, but like I don't know, man, they were all still fighting each other and stuff like that. It just seemed enjoyable, but like this one, like Death Grip was just like so serious, and like Deadpool's just so not. And it's just, he doesn't like, there's not much of a riff going on between the two, And so like for me, that's where like, that's when the dialogue from Deadpool starts just getting annoying for me.
Right.
When he's just spitting and just like talking complete nonsense, and the other guy's just like trying to be like complete serious. Like that's when for me it's just like I'm just like, okay, I'm kind of like done with that character. Like it's just annoying. He did have his funny moments, like you said, with that gun, like just throwing the gun after the bullets weren't working. I thought that was really funny. And then Death Grip basically like absorbed a sword, the sword that like stops
the Muramasa blade.
That's that's been done before. Not absorbing it, but using the blade for stuff.
That happens in Wolverine a lot.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just like, well, all right. Yeah, I don't know, man. Pretty much basically it. I honestly just don't like Death Grip that much.
Yeah, he's kind of boring.
He really is. Like, he just wants everybody to die. But yeah, I don't know, man. What did I give this? I would give this a 6, honestly.
I'm also giving this a 6. Yeah.
Thought it was overall just pretty boring.
All right, well, that would lead us into the Blood Hunt block for this episode. We got 6 Blood Hunt issues this week, and we're going to start off with Black Panther Blood Hunt number 3. Yes. This one is, it's written by Cheryl Lynn Eaton, and the artist is Fareed Karami. This is the finale of Black Panther Blood Hunt. So, I don't know, most of this issue is still kind of dealing with, like, the origin of Varney, which is not where I was expecting the series to go. And again, it feels like it's just kind of dropped the plot threads from the first issue, a lot of them at least. So this issue, again, we see a lot more of the origin of Varney. It's essentially, the gods all fought him, and then one of the gods, I believe Koko, who's like the god of war, he kind of went off the rails a little bit and was like, I'm gonna fucking kill everybody. And then, so I believe, I don't know who exactly it was. It might have been Bast who went up against him directly.
Yes.
Yeah, so Bast, had a big fight with him, and then it was Eshu, yeah. Eshu was like, all of you gods fucking suck. You guys are all, like, stuck here on Wakanda. You guys cannot leave Wakanda, most of you. I think he let Khonshu leave, and maybe Ptah or Gekre. I'm not sure.
It was... Well, so I know for a fact he made Kokuo and Bast stay.
And Bast stay, yep.
And then, he basically was just like, yeah, Khonshu, you're fine. You can just leave.
Yeah, because he's like, hey, you like were really proactive and tried to save humanity here, so you can go.
And then Gekra, I don't even remember.
I think Gekra was maybe the gorilla guy.
He left too, I think.
I think so, yeah. So that's the origin of the kind of, gods in this area for this series, as well as the origin of Varney. Did they trap Varney in the temple, the Atlantean temple? I think they do, right?
I think so.
Yeah. And then in the present, it's like T'Challa, he gets past those Atlanteans that were trying to stop him from going to the temple. He goes to the temple, and then in the temple, there's like, he hears a voice from this wall, and it's like, do you want to come join us, T'Challa? And T'Challa's like, no, I don't want to join you. And then the voice is like, too bad, and then it shoots this like big purple like mist at him.
Yeah.
And then T'Challa gets the Impossible City to teleport the temple to New York City, and that's how we see that happen at the end of number 3. And that's pretty much the issue. So it's fine, I guess. I do think I still like, despite it kind of being a pivot from the first issue, I like the kind of history of the gods and Varney that the series kind of turned to explore. It is kind of weird that they dropped a lot of the plot threads from earlier, but I do like that focus. It does kind of make it end up feeling less like a Black Panther book in parts, because he's only really in like half the issue. That's the other thing I forgot to mention. At the end, we see Bast and her sister Anuket like giving him more of the heart-shaped arm, being like, welcome back to Wakanda, champion of Wakanda, showing kind of how his starting to heal from the vampirism. But so yeah, it does kind of feel like T'Challa got kind of sidelined in his own series to a degree in these past 2 issues. But I think the pivot they made was interesting. I like the exploration of the gods and Varney and all that. The art's okay. I don't love the art, but I think it works well enough for this. I think, the portrayal of the gods was pretty cool. I like their kind of big fight. I liked Khonshu in this, although to me it was like just so clear that the only reason they had Khonshu be the main person to leave is just like he had to be around for Moon Knight stuff, so he kind of had to leave. But yeah, so I think this is a totally decent issue. I did end up turning around and kind of enjoying the series more than I thought I was going to at the start. Still don't think it's amazing, but I do think it kind of saved itself once it pivoted to that history of Varney and everything.
No, yeah, I mean, I do enjoy the history lesson. I generally enjoyed that more than what I was watching Black Panther do, honestly.
Yeah,
like, I thought
I agree.
That was just like super, like, honestly, I didn't care for it at all. I was like, okay, so he found the thing in Atlanta, and where was he even in that? Atlantis? It's not Atlantis.
Yeah, it was Atlantis adjacent. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And then and that's how he got there, and the main Blood Hunt story, whatever. So that's cool, fine. But yeah, the gods thing. I mean, okay, listen, right? I feel like Bast was wrongly accused here. I don't know, man. I think. Right, because she was trying to save the people too, which is why she was fighting with Kokuo or whatever the fuck his name is, right?
Yeah.
Messed up, man.
Yeah.
Messed up. And I feel like Khonshu got, like, slipped out of that right? 'Cause
Yeah.
he's the one that started this whole ass thing in the first place.
Yeah.
So for him to just be
true.
like, all right, yeah, I'm free. Peace out, then, dog. It's just
Yeah.
like, what the fuck, bro? No, help. What the hell? I felt like
Yeah.
I was just like, yo, what the hell? Like,
I thought that was just like super, just like okay, that's
Yeah.
interesting. I really don't have much to say because I really don't enjoy the art that much either. For most of I think it was like all of this about Panther Run actually. I didn't.
Yeah, it
really
was
like
the same guy. Yeah.
Yeah, besides that, like the story, like realistically, the story wasn't that much either. It's just
Yeah.
Varney, like really, it was like a mix of Varney and just the gods in general of how they ended up where they are.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like okay, now we know how Bast is like basically stuck in Wakanda or whatever. How
Right.
vibranium and things, whatever those like Pataz now. Yeah. So I don't know, man. It's an issue, I guess.
Yeah.
6, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I'm also gonna give it a 6. I was kind of hovering between 6 and 7, but I do think the Black Panther stuff wasn't all that interesting. Next up, we got Blood Hunters at number 3.
3.
3 stories in this one. The first one is written by Sean McKeever, and the artist is Lan Medina. Second one is written by Josh Trujillo, and the artist is Claire Rowe. And the third one is, as has been the case with the previous 2 issues, written by Erica Stoltz, and the artist is Bernard Chang. So, first story in this one is a Doctor Doom story where this kind of ambassador for Latveria has been kind of trying to overthrow Doctor Doom, kind of. She's been kind of working under the scenes to try and take down Doctor Doom. The vampires attack. Doom shows up and kind of saves her from the vampires. They get a lot of the other people in the compound, but she gets away. Just Doctor Doom comes in and saves her. And then Doom is apparently is ultimately like, hey, I know who you are. You're that double agent person. And so he's like, you can still do your like double agent, weird undercover ambassador stuff, but now you work for me because I just saved your life, and I will make sure that your kid is totally fine as well as long as you keep working for me. So that's kind of that first story. Second story,
Honestly, I don't even want to talk about the second story. We can just move on, honestly. Like,
no, we have to talk about the second story.
I can tell you, I'm not going to talk about the second story.
I will talk about the second story. It's weird as fuck. It's a Hell Cow story. The name of it is The Fall of the House of Utter, which, regardless of what you think of the story, that's a really funny name. I think that's
a very funny name, but
yeah.
Like...
So it's about this guy. He's working on a farm. It seemed like he kind of was part of like the mob life before or something, and he went to try and just go and get away from all that and just become a farmer. But he's working on the farm of Hell Cow, and Hell Cow kills like the other farmer who's been like working with him, and Hell Cow has a kid named Hell Calf, and Hell Cow's immortal. And I don't even really know how to explain some of this, but like the guy who's working the farm gets this like infatuation with Hell Cow, and he's like, I'm gonna become immortal. And he's like, he goes, and when Hell Cow is asleep, he pulls like a Homelander and like drinks Hell Cow's milk to try and like become immortal. And then he's essentially like, give me your immortality, Hell Cow, or I'll kill your kid. Otherwise, like, if you give me the immortality, I'll let your kid go. And then Hell Cow like bites his hand off, and that's where that story ends. She presumably eats him. Then we have the third story, which is the continuation of the Blood Hunters, like actual Blood Hunters story, where we have Elsa Bloodstone, we have Dagger there, and we have Yelena is also there.
Yes.
And I think Yelena starts as a vampire, right? And so she and Elsa are fighting.
Did Yelena show up in this one, or is that the last one?
I think Yelena shows up at the end of the last one, and then she's just in this issue. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think she's a vampire, and then Elsa is fighting her and trying to kill her, and Dagger's like, no, don't kill her. And then Dagger also gets vampirized, but is able to kind of just purge the vampirism through her like light powers, and so she's also able to do that to Yelena. And then there's a flock of vampires that go flying overhead. Elsa tries to shoot one of them down. Turns out it's Hollow's Eve in her vampire mask, and so she comes down and like joins the Blood Hunters.
Yep.
So, okay, story by story.
Oh boy.
The Doom one, pretty good, I think. I think
I
solid.
thought the Doom was pretty good.
Yeah, solid little Doom story where I think Doom is written well here. I like
Yes.
the way he just comes in and fucking destroys all the vampires, and that was all cool. The Hell Cow story, it's weird, man. It's weird as fuck. I don't hate it, but it's very, very strange. But it's also very unique and different, and so it did kind of feel fresh at least, and interesting. So I didn't hate reading it. It didn't make me bored, right? Ultimately, when I'm reading comics, if a comic is boring, I think it has completely failed. I think it's much better to have a comic that is weird and maybe bad, but weird. I also think it's better to have a comic that just like really takes a huge swing and just completely whiffs it. I think that's better than a boring comic, right? And this is definitely not boring. I think you can agree with me that this issue is not boring. It's weird as fun, but it's not boring. And like the Blood Hunters one, I think it's kind of generic. I'm not really loving the Blood Hunter story. It's also like it's kind of decompressed as it feels like it's telling one issue's worth of story across 4 issues through these backed up stories.
Yeah.
And so it just feels kind of decompressed and like not much is happening. Also, the structure of it's kind of weird because every issue at the end of that story, a new character is joined up, and it just kind of feels like the formula is becoming very transparent and clear. And making it kind of, I think it's breaking the immersion a little bit because the first one was Dagger fighting vampires. Elsa shows up towards the end. Second one is Elsa and Dagger have an argument. Yelena shows up at the end. Then like Elsa and Yelena are fighting, and then Hallows' Eve shows up at the end. So I think that formula is becoming kind of stale. But overall, I think this is a solid enough issue of Blood Hunters. Again, first story pretty good. Second story weird but interesting. Third story bland and generic, but mostly okay. That's kind of where I fall with this one.
Yeah, okay. I mean, hey, loved the first one. I thought that one was great. Loved Doom in that one. That one was really very good, honestly. Second one, genuinely, I'll be honest. I think I skimmed. I read it so fast. I didn't even read dialogue. I looked at images, saw things happening, and I was like, I really just. I didn't even bother, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm not reading this. When I started reading, like for me, if something is bad, my man, it is bad. Like I don't even give it. I can't even like try to like force myself to read that. No, just no. I don't mind. Like okay, I will read it if it's boring. It will take me forever, but I will read it. But if it's just straight up, just I'm not having it. Dude, no.
Oh, I'm the opposite. I love reading really, really bad comics.
I fucking can't, dude. Fall of the House of Honor. It's just great name, honestly. Just I'm not even gonna entertain that. Like I saw images. I'm good. All right. So I just no review, honestly, on that one. And then the third one, I mean, I started theory crafting with it, really. That's pretty much it. Just the fact that, like, Dagger can, like, unvampirize people.
Yeah.
Because that's what she did to Yelena.
Yeah.
With her light powers. So, that has some advantages there or whatever. For me, Elsa in this one's, like, I mean, I know she's, like, a strong character, but she's coming off as, like, an ass in general.
I think that is also part of her character, though.
Is it? Okay. Because, like, I don't know, man, because, like, sometimes, like, I don't see her, like, completely as an ass. I don't know, whatever. And then, yeah, Hallows' Eve is there. Really don't know much about her.
She's fine. She's got an interesting power set, but I don't think anybody's really done anything that cool with her character yet.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. So, I mein, yeah, third one, I mean, it's like you said, like, they're putting, like, one issue's worth in 4, which I really don't see the point. Ultimately, I really don't. Yeah, I mean, I thought that one was also all right. For my favorite one was definitely the first one, though, I will say. So yeah, overall, I'd probably just give it a 6 again. I don't know.
I'm gonna give this one a 7. I would say I give the first story like a 7 or an 8. I give the second story a 10, obviously, and then I
hate that.
No, I have no idea what I would give the second story. It's like so
it's
strange.
Impossible
I'm not
to
even
rate.
Sure.
It's
I know,
impossible.
And then the third one is like a low 6 for me. I think.
Yeah,
I'm gonna give it a 7 overall. I think.
Okay. Yeah.
Then we're gonna move on to Doctor Strange number 17 here. This is the final issue of the Blood Hunt Doctor Strange. I'm also pretty sure it's the second to last issue of this series, period. So it's written by Jed MacKay. The artist is Pascal Ferry. First of all, I just want to say I like this series. I'm not done. I'm not up to date on it. I have been reading the Bloodhound stuff, obviously, but I'm not up to date on it. But this series, I think, has been a very solid Doctor Strange series from what I've read of it. Just overall, very solid. I won't be talking about the finale next month, but I like this series quite a bit. This issue, I think it's fun. I like it. It's essentially it's Bats the Ace Hound teaming up with Anton and Alistair the Snakes, and also Baron Mordo to try and get Victor Strange out of Stephen Strange's body.
Yes.
So they're all in the Crypt of Shadows. They leave the Crypt of Shadows because Bats prays to the god, the dog god, which then uses Bats as a vessel, as a host, and then they're able to get out of the Crypt of Shadows that way. So then the Bats with the god of dogs in him is then able to he fights. He has a big fight with Victor Strange, and is able to separate Victor Strange from Steven by biting his ghost, because Ace is also, he's a ghost dog.
Yes.
He's able to then bite the ghost of Victor Strange out of Steven's body, and then that also like heals him of vampirism. So now Doctor Strange is not a vampire. His astral form is still not in his body right now, but he's not a vampire anymore. And Mordo goes back to the Crypt of Shadows. He's essentially like, I helped because when Strange dies, I want him to be like at his full power, and I want to be the one who kills him. And that's pretty much the extent of the story. I like the art in this series. Again, I know you are not a fan of the art in this, but I think the art has been good. I think it's been cool and like, you know, trippy and ethereal and in the right kind of way for the series. It's a little bit goofy, the whole God of Dogs and Ace thing, but I think it's fun goofy and not like dumb goofy. And yeah, I think it leaves things in a good place for Strange to really fully re-enter the fray in Bloodhunt number 5, and I think it sets things up nicely for that. So I don't have much to say besides that. I like this series. I think it's fun. It's always like, every time I read it, it's always like a nice, pleasant read, and it's just a general. I just have fun with the series. So yeah, I like it. I think it really also captures the cool, like, unique diversity and variety of the mystical side of the Marvel universe. Because I think all the stuff in there, it really just feels unique and fresh in a way that not all Marvel books do. So I like the series. I like this issue. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, what can I say about this one? Honestly, yeah, still don't really like the art that much. I mean, the dog god thing, I guess, was clever enough. Like, it was the way Mordo explained magic to the dog. What was it? Bats.
No, wait, sorry, it is Bats. Yeah, it's Bats the Ace Hound, or maybe it's not. No, it's Bats the Ghost Dog. I keep getting Bats confused with Ace the Bat Hound from Batman. So,
jeez.
But it's Bats the Ghost Dog. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, the way Mordo explained magic to Bats, with how it was just like, yeah, magic is just stories and whatever. I'm just like, okay. I don't think that's really true, but sure. Who knows? Honestly, I don't. That's, yeah. The dog god itself, like you said, was like, it was fun, goofy, and I mean, I guess that's what it needed. I'm not too sure if I really liked it. But I don't see any other way this could have been resolved, really, because Wong wasn't going to fight and harm Steven, or risk harming Steven's body. And so, like, I don't see any other way this could have ended, unless Mordo did something. But, like, he inadvertently helped, in a sense, by, you know, getting them out of the Crypt of Shadows or whatever the fuck. Yeah, I didn't like that whole. I just didn't like this whole premise with like Victor, whatever, taking over Steven's body. I didn't like it that much. I thought it was just not interesting, honestly. Just boring and just an excuse to just like throw Doctor Strange, like a Doctor Strange book, into the Bloodhunt thing. I mean, I guess it cures some of his vampirism, which I'm starting to have a beef with. Everybody's just getting cured of vampirism.
Miles
seems
isn't.
like
Miles is sticking with it, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, why is he the only one that has to get stuck with it at this point? Like Yelena got cured of it instantly. Yep. As soon as we see her. Strange has now been cured of it through magic somehow.
Yep.
Black Panther has he just is heart-shaped herb. And then Miles is the one that's just like, fuck it, he has to stay a vampire? Like, bruh. Come on now. We have like 3 people. We have like 3 solutions at this point, and nobody goes to Miles.
Yeah.
God. But whatever, honestly. Yeah, overall, didn't really enjoy this one. I don't like Doctor Strange books that much. 5.
I'm giving it an 8. Next up in the Blood Hunt order is Miles Morales Spider-Man number 22, written by Cody Ziegler, and the artist is Brent Peoples and Daniel Picciotto. So this issue picks up right from the end of the last issue, where Reimer, the vampire that Miles had previously captured along with the help of Hightail, who's a speedster, he has now been released from the seal that he was trapped in, and so most of this issue, as a result, is just a big fight between Miles, Hightail, and Reimer. At a certain point, Bloodline shows up, and then because of that, they have the plan to for Hightail to go and gather the pieces of the seal. Miles will then web them up, and then Brielle will do the spell that puts Reimer back in the seal, which they managed to do. And then Dracula shows up, and he's like, "Hey, you ready to go finish the Blood Hunt?" And they're all like, "Let's finish the Blood Hunt." And that's the issue, essentially. So, again, I think it's a solid issue. This series is generally pretty great. I'm not, again, up to date on this one either. I'm pretty far behind on this one, but it's been very solid from the beginning, from what I've read. I'm pretty much right up to the point in the series where Miles has his first fight with Reimer. So I'm just like right before that. Yeah. And what I've read of this series, I've loved. Like it's so good for the majority of it so far. Definitely, I would say it's much better than ASM. And before Ultimate Spider-Man came along, I was definitely thinking this is the best of the Spider-Man books right now. So it's fun. It's good. I like it. I think the dialogue works between all the characters. I think Cody Ziegler has a really good handle on writing Miles as a character. And, I think it works on that level. I don't think this issue is the best of this series. I think that is partially because it is kind of just a big fight. And the fight's okay, but it's not amazing. But I think, I think the dialogue between the characters is fun, and that ultimately carries it enough so that I did quite enjoy this one regardless.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I also thought this one was fine. I mean, I haven't read anything like any other Miles books yet, like from this series. But like, this one was, like you said, this was just big action thing. And, for me, for it being a big action, issue, the action in it was not all that great. I think what really helped this one was the dialogue between Miles and Hightail, I think is what her name was, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
But yeah, they like Miles trying to act all friendly and Hightail like trying not to have it, but like still inadvertently kind of being friendly in a way.
Yeah.
And so yeah, for me it was just mostly the dialogue in this one. I like I said, the action wasn't all it. Bloodline coming in and like kind of like sucking Hightail into like her and Miles' energy, because they're like Bloodline and Miles are like really they're the same a lot.
Yeah.
With their energy and how they act and stuff like that. So that was funny to see her just getting sucked into that. But then Dracula showing up at the end. He always just shows up after the fight, and Miles points it out too.
Or he'll show up
So
like
funny.
when there's no fight and just beat the shit out of Daredevil.
Oh, that's also true. And then what else? What was it? Oh yeah, and then just the fact that like Brielle's like, yeah, I'm okay with killing Blade now.
Yeah.
After what Daredevil's, said to her and stuff like that.
Right.
And so now the three of them are gonna be on their way to where I'm assuming where the giant like statue is or whatever. Building? Temple. Yeah. So I mean overall solid 7.
I'm also giving it a 7.
Yeah.
That would lead us. I think the next one listed in the checklist is X-Men Blood Hunt Psylocke number 1. So this is written by Steve Fox. The artist is Lin Yoshi. I think, actually, again, I was pleasantly surprised by this one. I think much like the Magic one, I quite enjoyed this one. I don't think this is quite as good as the Magic one, I don't think, but it's close. Yeah. It's also, though, it's kind of barely a vampire issue.
It's like a spin on it.
So we have Psylocke and John Greycrow, who they're now together post Krakoa era. They had a lot of character development and relationship development in Krakoa, so now they're together and they're just hanging out in Japan. And then the vampires pop out, and because of the Dark Force energy, it also kind of unleashes a lot of mythical Japanese monsters on Japan as well. So Psylocke and Greycrow fight a lot of them. They're trying to just save all the civilians they can. And then ultimately they end up beating them, and they're like, all right, this is cool, good stuff. We saved the city. So in this one we see like the two monsters that I remember. There's this big like snake looking dragon thing with a big face on it, and then the one which I think was cool visually, and then the other one which was pretty fucking creepy was I don't remember the name of it, but it's the person with the big like pair of scissors that just like cuts people's heads off. It's like, damn, that's like
slit-faced lady or woman, I don't remember exactly.
Yeah, one of the two.
One of the two.
Yeah. And that was just like a cool, like creepy kind of just character in this story. And I don't think much more happens. There is a lot of action and Psylocke kind of fighting these these mythical Japanese folklore creatures. We see one death right at the start from the big scissor person, but it's actually like, it's kind of creepy. This is, I think, one of the creepier issues of Blood Hunt, just of the designs and the concepts of these mythical Japanese folklore creatures. I think it's really cool. I really liked seeing a look into that kind of world, and just really cool, like a really cool, like conceptually designs for these for these creatures. Again, probably mostly based from reality, but still just cool to see them in this issue. I think it was a really cool little look into that kind of cultural thing there, and I just kind of thought it was really cool and pretty creepy, actually, despite it being a Blood Hunt issue where most of these Blood Hunt tie-ins and even the main issues have not really been like creepy. They've just kind of been like big, kind of dark, gory action sometimes. So I think this is pretty good.
No, yeah, I actually really like this one too. I mean, I really like the whole spin on the fact that like this like Japanese folklore like monster person was actually just a vampire the entire time, like that was the whole story behind her, like why she has been like, her story has like survived for so long. Really, it's just the fact that like, she actually exists. She's just a vampire, and like the whole I really liked that spin on it, and like for them to show you also like a bit of like her background and explain like why she is like who she is or whatever. I have heard of this one specifically. I don't recognize the big snake one. I did know about this one though. So I did understand a little bit of her thing. Like her thing is like, she'll ask you like, is she pretty or whatever the frick?
Right.
And then like if you say no, she just cuts your head off. And if you say yes, she like shows you her like face or whatever, and then she like, I think
cuts her head off anyway.
Because obviously you're gonna flinch at that.
Right.
Like her fucking like mouth and stuff, and so like she'll just like consistently like pester you and whatever, and I think you end up dying anyway. So, but I could be wrong about that part. But yeah. So I just really liked that whole spin on it. And I was like, oh hey, like it was just something I thought that was pretty clever and cool, and I just overall I thought this one was a pretty good issue as well, though, because it was like solid action and I think solid storytelling overall, and I really liked the art in it too. I thought the art was actually very, very good.
Yeah.
And so so for would I say this is like the best Blood Hunt this week? Honestly, I would say that. Yeah, I'm gonna say that it was the best Blood Hunt this week, and so for that reason, I gave it an 8.
I also gave it an 8, and that would lead us into the final issue of the episode, Werewolf by Night Blood Hunt #1, written by Jason Liu, and the artist is Adam Gorham. Okay. So we have not talked about Werewolf by Night much on this show, but I'm pretty sure we have at least once. I don't like Werewolf by Night. I have read the entirety of the initial like 70s Werewolf by Night series. Fucking hated it for the most part. There were some like high points every now and then. Like that's where the first appearance of Moon Knight ever was in Werewolf by Night. But I hate the character of Werewolf by Night generally. I think he's just boring. It's also goofy as hell. This is a different Werewolf by Night, to be fair. It's not Jack Russell. It's Jake Gomez. But I just, the Werewolf by Night name just makes me immediately just not look forward to it. The other thing is, it's written, as I mentioned, by Jason Liu. Again, if you've listened to the show for a little while, you might recognize that name as the person who wrote the latest Sentry miniseries, which I didn't like. I think it got better as it went on, but I didn't like it generally. This issue kind of has the opposite problem of that series, actually, now that I think about it. I think it starts out okay, not good, definitely not great, but okay, and it just progressively gets worse and worse and worse. It starts out with Jake this version of Werewolf by Night, going to this like abandoned amusement park. It's kind of his place where he's able to just turn into the Werewolf by Night. He like gets his music going, which allows him to retain some more control over the werewolf, and it kind of lets him get it out, so then he doesn't have to just like turn into it all the time. So while he's at this amusement park, he sees this group of like teenagers summoning a ghost. So they summon this ghost, and the ghost is one of these kids' uncles. And so the ghost is like, "Hey, nephew, can I just like use your body as like a vessel / host so that I can, actually have a physical existence for a little bit again?" And the nephew's like, "Sure, I guess." And then he possesses his nephew, and he's like, "Now I'm gonna fucking kill you all." And and then it cuts. Well, first of all, Jake pops out. He's like, "Hey, look at me. I'm a werewolf by night." He's not in his werewolf by night form, but he's like, "Hey, over here." And he kind of distracts the demon ghost, so that it doesn't kill all the other kids there. Then it cuts. The caption says like hours, days, or weeks later or something, right? It cuts forward, and it cuts forward to this like group of vampires, this like these sheriff vampires, and they see the lights of the amusement park going, and they're like, "Let's go and fucking eat some people." And then it cuts back to the amusement park, and the kids are saying that all of their phones died at least a day ago, which is fucking insane, because that presumably means that they've just been running around this amusement park for days.
Yep.
And it's like, what? First of all, I do not believe for a second that they would have survived that long. Also, I don't know why they wouldn't have just fucking left. So it's insane. The implication there is insane. I don't know what they've all been fucking doing in that time and how they're all still alive. And then the ghost demon dude starts explaining. And this is what I was talking about, bad exposition, by the way, because this is the fucking like most 60s Marvel kind of exposition there is. He's not fucking talking to anybody. He's just like expositing to himself about who he is. It's like, he fucking knows that. Who's he talking to? I mean, I know the audience, but like, there's a better fucking way to do that. And he was essentially like, "Yeah, I'm an obscure Ghost Rider villain from the 1970s. I saw that, made me fucking hate the issue more. I've read that Ghost Rider series. I don't remember this guy, but I've definitely read this issue that this guy's from. Early Ghost Rider was dog shit. It was so bad." So like, hearing that, I was like, fuck this even more. So then like, yeah, Jake kind of like, he like werewolf's out again, but he's filled with the rage of the werewolf.
Yep.
And he goes and like kills the fucking ghost demon thing, and he kills a bunch all the other like teenagers that were there as well. Presumably, we don't see him do it, but he seems to think it was him at least. I thought it could have been the demon, but I probably was Jake. And that's kind of where the issue ends. So again, I think it started out fine. It was not great by any means, absolutely not. But I think it started out okay. But then when we get to the point where like they've seemingly been there forever, or for like more than a day, which is insane. The timeline on that is baffling. And the fact that it's this dumbass fucking villain from a shit series, and the fact that he's just doing this blatantly so clunky and just obvious exposition, I was just like, fuck this, man. Like, I hated this. So this sucked. I really didn't like it. This writer is writing a fucking Werewolf by Night like ongoing series soon. It's a Red Band series, fine, I guess, but I am absolutely not picking this up. I'm not planning to at any rate. I have a feeling Sebastian will make me, but I'm not planning to pick this up. This is the reason why I'm not picking up the Dazzler miniseries in a couple months. I am planning to at least give all of these new X-Men books like 3 or 4 issues, but not that one. I fucking cannot stand this guy's writing. I have not read anything that I've really liked from him. This sucked. I hate it. Please, it's bad. So yeah, that's my review.
Interesting. No, I mean, honestly, this was not good by any means. I think I agree with what you say, that it started out good. For me, when it started going downhill was when they started summoning the demon. Like, what the fuck? What does that have to do with? What does that have to do with anything vampire? I feel like we threw vampires in here just to say, okay, it connects.
Yeah,
but
I agree. Yeah.
Even that had nothing to do with shit, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
the vampires are in maybe a third of the issue. That's being pretty generous. that had part to do with Bloodhunt and the fact that the moon disappeared.
But
Yeah.
even that was like for like what like continuity wise in this issue, I would say like what, maybe 10 fucking minutes. Like really, like
Yeah.
the demon showed up. He tried to wolf out. The sky was
Yeah.
dark at that point.
Right.
He like saves one of his friends by being like, hey, look at me, I'm over here. Demon chases him for a little bit. He saves that's how he saves his like childhood friend or whatever. Gets slapped by the demon, but is about to die, and the moon shows up again. So it's like, didn't take that long realistically. So I don't understand that part. They threw vampires in there just cause, he wolfs out, kills the host, and then we're assuming kills the friend he also just saved.
Kills all of them.
I know,
because
I know he killed the vampires. I'm pretty sure as well.
Yep.
So I guess killed the friend as well. But honestly, really not that good.
Yeah.
I think it would have been a little bit better if they didn't throw the demon in there. Like if they had focused more on vampires, I think it would have been fine. Because
but the demon's the whole fucking story. I don't know what else they could have done. Like,
well, that's what I'm saying. Like if they had just scrapped that and just done something completely different, right? Like werewolf versus vampires has been like the biggest thing since like ever. That's like always like the big thing, So for like realistically, they're not that the focus. I think is just so stupid of them.
Yeah, but I see that's the thing. That's the problem with this. Your only point of like this is the only way to make it better is just to do something completely different. That shows how fucking fucked this issue is. It's like what?
Obviously,
No, I'm not like saying that you're like disagreeing with that. I'm just like it's baffling to me that this is the fucking shit they decided to go with for this event. Bad.
No,
I fucking hated it.
No, genuinely was not good. I enjoyed where it was at first. Like, okay, I am enjoying this. This man just wants to come over here. He's gonna wolf out, not hurt anybody. Okay, that makes sense. It's also gonna go awry because obviously it's blood hunt, stuff like that. Who knows? But then it just demon shit that just like comes out of nowhere. Like, what the fuck does that have anything to do with anything? Vampires get thrown in there just cause they're like, we're the night shift guys. We're gonna be night shifting all the time now. It's just like, what the fuck, bro? Oh my god, yeah. Because even the dialogue wasn't even that good. Honestly, just
it was clunky as hell. Yeah.
I don't even know. I think honestly, I'm gonna give it like, oof, man.
I'm giving it a 3.
Okay, I was in between a 3. I'm in between a 3 and a 4 right now. I am.
By the way,
I'm
gonna give it being generous.
I think I'm gonna go with 3, honestly. Yeah. I'm gonna go with the 3. It was just not it.
After reading this, are you going to pick up the next Werewolf by Night series, knowing it's from the same writer?
I don't know. I might give Dazzler a shot.
What? Why? Where did this come from? You said you weren't going to.
I wasn't going to, but I feel like I should give it at least 1 issue.
I would if it wasn't this writer. I don't have anything against Dazzler, but I cannot stand this guy's writing. I love the X-Men. We'll talk about it next week, but the X-Men is like that. The mutant side of the Marvel universe is like my favorite corner of the Marvel universe. But this writer, I don't like his writing. So I'm not picking up Dazzler.
I don't know, man. I really don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, anyway, that would wrap it up for this episode of Earth's Mightiest Comics. Thank you as always, everybody, for watching or listening. Next episode, there's another very, very big comic next episode, which is X-Men #1. It's the start of the X-Men from the Ashes era. Now that it's like post Krakoa has fallen, this is the next step. It's the first like jumping on point since like 2019. So I have read this. I'm not gonna like go into my thoughts on it right now, but I have a lot of thoughts about not just this issue, but just this entire era as a whole. Very excited to talk about that next week. We also have more Absolute Power stuff. Absolute Power Task Force 7, the first issue, is next week. We also have the new issue of Ain't No Grave. I like this series so far. I think it's very solid. So definitely looking forward to that. More Blood Hunt stuff with Avengers, Hulk, Union Jack the Ripper, and Wolverine. So that's the Blood Hunt stuff for next week. We also have the new issue of Daredevil. I've also read this. I mean, my thoughts, again, I won't go too much of my thoughts on this, but it's pretty consistent with how I've been feeling about this series so far. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. Falling in Love on the Path to Hell, issue #2. Really solid first issue, actually. I'm looking forward to this next issue. I think it's a very strong start. Geiger #4. I go back and forth on Geiger. Every time I read an issue, I end up like initially kind of liking it. The more I think about it, the kind of less I like it. So we'll see how this one goes. New issue of Green Lantern, great series, absolute power time. See how that one goes. Also, new issue of Transformers. I like this series. I do. I am finding it kind of becoming a little bit overwhelming again, but still, like, I like the Underdog Universe. I'm looking forward to this issue still. And then also the Ultimates #2. We didn't talk about the Ultimates #1 as we were on break. But the Ultimates #1 fucking rocked. Thought it was great.
Yeah.
And really looking forward to this one as well. I think this is a very, very, very strong start to this this Ultimate Universe Avengers team. So yeah, you got anything on your end?
Dawn Runner, Batman and Robin.
Joshua Williamson's going to be leaving Batman and Robin soon. He won't be writing it for much longer, apparently.
This is the most atrocious news I've heard.
You always say that. You said
really
that when Chichetto took a break from Ultimate Spider-Man, which I was bummed about as well. But yeah. Anyway, yeah. As always, thank you everybody for watching or listening. If you enjoy the video and you're on YouTube, you can of course like the video. You can also subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of our videos, and you can hit the bell notification so that you do not miss any of our videos going forward. You can also leave us a comment, letting us know what you think about some of the current comics that have been releasing over the past couple weeks, what some of your favorites are. And if you want to get in contact with us, you can also do so at our email address, which is earthsmightiestcomicspod@gmail.com. That is all one word. And then you can also follow the show on Spotify as well, so you don't miss an episode over there. So yeah, as always, thank you everybody for watching or listening, and we'll see you in the next one.